Utilities. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Mchako, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Martinez. And for everybody's here, just a minor housekeeping thing. You know, I just want to refresh our memories. When the governor declares a holiday, like he did for Friday, we used to have to pass a resolution, but I think, Teresa, we delegated that authority, or the governor has that right, or whatever. What did we do?
Position is a governor declares a holiday through executive order.
Yeah.
So by law, all agencies, autonomous line agencies,
Even
etc.,
us.
of the government of Guam are required to follow the edicts of the executive order. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, just housekeeping, just so everybody's on the same page. Okay. No, we know it doesn't matter. You know, for that one. Okay. Next, Miguel, the floor is yours. You have how many issues? I thought we had
4.
2. Good. No, good. Only 4. 438 pages. Only 400.
So these are 4 resolutions, the first 3 of which relate to wastewater collection system projects that, with the signing of the consent decree, are more critical now. And so the first 3 deal with that, and then the last one deals with the court order project. So
Okay, good. Go.
the first 3 are related to consent decree.
New consent decree.
When I say consent decree, it's the new list. When we say court order, it's the old list.
We're more or less.
Almost.
We're on the 1 foot line.
We're in the 1 yard line. Yeah, we got to get a big guy to push it.
We got some quarterback seat. We got some fat line. Push you over.
Okay.
So first resolution is 03 FY 2024, and this is seeking additional funding for the Agana Main Sewage Pump Station rehab and redundant force main design project. So this project is an existing project, and it was originally intended to address the 2,700-foot long force main from the Agana Main Pump Station to the Hagatna Wastewater Treatment Plant. That carries all of the wastewater that comes through the central basin from that single collection point at the pump station out to the treatment plant. The force main is rather old, and we already had a project to assess and provide a redundant force main. The original project, when it was started, contemplated conceptually using horizontal directional drilling to avoid work on the surface, cutting cover through the marine environment, which was how the original pipeline had been constructed. When we went through the design from concept to the initial submission, the estimates for the construction cost had increased significantly, which made the original concept untenable from our perspective, from management's perspective. So we sought at that point to make a pivot. Around the same time, we were finalizing the requirements of the consent decree. So with this petition or requests for additional funding, what we seek to do is to take care of the additional pump station work that would be required as part of the consent decree requirements, and add that to the scope, and then also provide for a kind of redesign of the approach, for instead of putting 2 horizontal directionally drilling 2 redundant force mains, we are going to put in a temporary surface bypass on the causeway to take the original line out of service and then rehabilitate it rather than construct a new one. And the cost for that is much more reasonable, and it will still accomplish the same goal. And so that work is what is anticipated with this additional funding. So the original contract was about $600,000. What we are looking at adding for the design of the new force main piping is an additional $60,000, and then an assessment and design allowance for the pump station work that would be required of 695,000. On top of that, because we have yet to do the assessment on the pump station, we're asking for a little larger contingency of 271,000. So it would bring the total authorized amount, a new contract amount at 1.3 with the contingency, a total authorized amount of 1.63 million. We're hoping to get this change order executed and then the design to be completed in September of 2024. As you know, this is, because it's a consent decree project, we have strict timelines on that, and the team is working to advance these projects, which is why we're bringing this one to you now. So US EPA grants will be used to take care of this.
You know, the only question I have is according to your drawing here, pipe that goes out under the water, is that under the ground? Is that laying on?
It's shallow buried in the, it's not on top. You're
Okay,
talking
it's
about
not.
the existing line.
Yeah, the existing
The
line.
existing
The red
line
that you
is
show.
subsurface, and this was constructed using traditional trench cut and cover. So I imagine at the time they had a shallow barge or they had an excavator right on the reef flat. And they
Okay.
were
Okay, no,
excavating.
the reason why I asked, because if you're gonna rehabilitate, when you do one of those, reline the line,
Yeah.
like what we did on the, like, from Anderson down to, okay,
So that would be the concept, and you can see it runs in at 90-degree angles.
Right.
So more than likely, the construction will involve accessing each end of the one straight run by excavating outside the pump station, and then also, you know, where the hot dog stand used to be,
yes.
that
yeah.
parking lot. Yeah, that is where we'll excavate, put a pit, and then we'll do that stretch, and then we'll do the other stretch going out of.
And when that contractor came out, to do the big one from Anderson down the new wastewater, I mean, the upgraded wastewater, northern wastewater treatment plant.
The interceptor?
Yeah,
Yes.
the interceptor. They left some of their equipment here, I understand, or something? Good.
That, the bypass equipment, we have the piping from this other similar project on Route 1, Phase 2. From that project, we have the ramp. Some of that can be used. This is, so those ones we're feeding in. The interceptor was large, and so it might be equivalent, but this new bypass piping that's going to be laid on the causeway, temporary bypass piping, we can use we'll try to use as much of the existing equipment as we can. We may not be able to do all of it.
Okay.
Or we might need some additional, is my
But
point.
we also have experienced contractors, has had experience doing work.
Yeah.
Who might come out and bid.
Bid,
Hopefully
yes.
they bid on it. No. There'll be no big sign like, okay? No, okay. Could be a small sign, very small sign. I think should. No, hey, nothing beats Barrett Plumbing's sign on, this is a small digression, nothing beats their sign on the truck, their septic pump truck. It says, we want to provide you product and, your satisfaction is guaranteed, or we return your product. Nothing beats that one. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Next, any questions? Any other questions, by the way, commissioners? No?
Take care of two and three. I think it's all just it's a good product. Same discussion.
2.2,
Okay,
similar
the next
project, yes, it's for the Fujita pump station. The original design project was similar, addressing the force mains. During the conduct of that, we've done some investigation and identified that the force main, the wall thickness at a couple of locations where we've accessed the air relief valves in the line indicates a significant deterioration, so additional assessment is required as part of the design work. We also are taking this opportunity to, again, address the pump station requirements of the consent decree. By the way, I forgot to mention, if you recall, the consent decree, and even in our master plan, the pump stations are prioritized in tiers. Aganya Main is a priority project. Fujita is a tier 1 priority project. So these ones are crucial for us to get done first. So again, we're expanding the scope to include the pump station work and a 15% contingency for the Fujita project. Critically important as well because of the tourism district and the importance of keeping that station properly functioning. So the original contract cost for the force main project was $930,000. We're seeking an additional cost for additional force main condition assessment and also for the pump station design at $670,000, bringing the contract amount to 1.6. Again, seeking a 15% contingency on top of that at $240,000 for a total authorized amount of $1.84 million. Again, this is an ongoing project that we are going to change the scope, so we anticipate the design to be completed in April 2025, and then we'll put it out to bid soon thereafter. Again, this is also funded with US EPA grant fund. Yeah. Would there need to be some assessment?
Okay. Well, I have a question about another pump station until you're finished.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on this? No? Okay, next one.
The next one is Resolution 05 FY 2024. This is for the GWA sewer pump station. We had an existing flood mitigation project, and in the middle of the construction of that project, Typhoon Mawar essentially inundated the pump station. I showed you pictures in the after action report of water 2 feet below the ceiling line, and this was that station. So this resolution seeks additional funding in order to provide for some additional cleanup that is required post Mawar, and also for some additional additional construction work for improvements, some minor safety items that weren't caught, but then also some replacement of the auto dialer and some other instrumentation that was damaged during the storm. So the total current approved contract cost is 1.113 million, and we're seeking to fund 2 additional change orders, 14,000 approximately for the cleanup and repair after the storm, and then not to exceed amount of $70,000 for the auto dialer and instrumentation repair to replace that stuff that was damaged. So an additional 84,000. So not as big a ticket item as the other pump station projects, but still required.
This is bond funding?
This one is bond funded, yes. We don't have a timeline on completion because we're still pending some delivery information on the parts, but we anticipate it'll take a couple months after we get it to do the installation and commissioning for those replacement parts. Yeah. Not under this project. We are working with GPA on generator replacements. Yeah.
Question on the FEMA reimbursement. John has his own assessment.
Yeah, if it's our asset, we're claiming it. If it's John's asset, John's. There's some where we own.
So what about the hardening issues? Did you just lengthen that steel generator?
So we've done the security proof of concept already, and it included well sites, which are typically the ones where they're out in the middle of the nowhere in the chain link. So those standards from that proof of concept that have been accepted are being rolled into any new facility improvement. Oh,
What do we plan?
on the design standards?
Yeah, whatever we plan to do. These cameras, no really hardening.
No. There is hardening of the facility. It's not, the new design standard does not use chain link. So I think it's using, it's not concrete walls, but I think it's the metal bars, similar to what you see outside of National Guard.
That little wall.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
You know, the other thing that equipment companies do, and I don't know if yours does, but for their asset, they have the GPS, right? So
They disconnect the batteries. Well, you take every precaution. Anyway,
Whether we put it there or.
Temporary, right? Definition, figurative existence.
Somebody didn't read on them.
okay. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. Any other questions for this project? No? Okay. Next.
is Resolution 06 FY 2024, and this is seeking additional funding for construction management of court order tank projects at Santa Rosa, Sinifa, and Santa Rita. These, no, the last ones are Muning, Menangan, and Ugam, for the concrete ones. So for this, the board may remember that we had landslide issues at the Santa Rita site. And rather than, because we don't want to invest in a new tank if we are going to continue to have these problems, and based on, we had 2 record-setting October rains over the past several years. The first one caused damage to the access road prior to the construction project. The second one caused it during construction project, but only while we were doing the foundations and the on-site infrastructure. We had not started vertical construction tank. Because of those issues and the likelihood that they may occur with increasing extreme weather events and ground saturation, which was the cause for this particular slope failure at this site, we made the decision to pause until to evaluate whether it made sense to proceed. And as we did so, we updated the hydraulic analysis that defined what the improvements were for the court order and presented those to the court when we requested the last extension. And in that request and that updated hydraulic analysis, the storage capacity that was planned for the Santa Rita site could be provided by the adjacent portion of the system at the Sinifa site. The Sinifa site. So we had put a new concrete reservoir at Sinifa, and we had the existing steel reservoir. So the storage capacity that was going to be at Santa Rita is now being moved to Sinifa using that steel reservoir, which was not required to meet the original hydraulic analysis. So now we have extra capacity. It will be used to provide the storage capacity that was serving the Santa Rita area, because they flow down the same loop. That's where the water comes from. So this change order requires additional construction management services to address that shift in location. That's one of the items. The other item is, in addition to the Sinifa tank reservoir, the Santa Rosa tank has a similar steel tank that will also need rehabilitation. So this is item number 3 on the additional work for that is the CM services to cover those 2 sites for the steel tank repair. It was included as an option in the CM services. So we are seeking an amount to fund that option, should we feel we have to. We have some other options that we're looking at in terms of the steel tank repair. So we're looking at all of those, but if it turns out that we do need this, we're seeking the additional funding to authorize that amendment. It is now going to be required to be done as part of the court order. So the other 2 components are, with respect to the Santa Rita site, reviewing the, continuing to review the proposed solution to restore the slip failure and the adjacent access road that affects neighboring properties. We still have an obligation to get that done. So we need the CM to continue that work. The third piece is the completion of the tanks are done and in service, but the booster pump stations and some of the on-site infrastructure at both Zanifa and Santa Rosa have gone beyond the contract completion date. We have advised the contractor that this is due to their delays, and any additional services that are required to complete this project in terms of construction management are on their dime. So we've put them on notice, and we intend to assess special damages to cover the additional cost of CM. So, but that's the third component of this additional funding that we're requesting under this contract. So all those described will be an additional, those 3 components will be an additional 1 million, which includes a 15% contingency. So we're seeking an additional 1.098 million, bringing the total authorized funding on the contract to 7.7 million. And we hope that all of this stuff will be completed by January 2025. This will be funded by bond funds and then also from the assessed damages to the contractor to cover CM work that is due to his delays. The delay, I think it's about 310,000 out of the million. Liquidated is unspecified. We're using the term and the provision for special damages because it relates specifically to a known cost as a general unknown. And again, the additional work for the steel tank CM is a not to exceed amount yet. They've given us a cost. We're using that cost, but we're trying to negotiate the pricing on that. And similarly with the work for the slope failure, we have cost estimates for that, but we're not sure we're going to need all of it yet. But we don't, because it's court ordered, we want to get the approval from you guys for all of it at once. If we don't use it, we won't use it. If we don't need it, we won't use it.
That's all the resolutions you have.
Yes,
right?
sir.
For the information of the commission, the last resolution will be taken up at a special meeting just to deal with Alan Searles. But we'll do that as a special meeting, probably in January. Okay? The last resolution is relative to the option of the market data. This is the Alan Searles study. So you'll probably see one in the GPA also. 2.5?
There's no resolution in the packet.
Yeah.
It's just on the agenda.
It's just on the agenda. There's no resolution.
And we'll upload it later.
Well, that'll be I think it's better if we take that with GPA at a special meeting just to discuss that issue itself, because it's a big issue.
Have we set a date?
No, not yet. And I'm thinking of maybe July because December's coming very fast.
January.
I mean January. No, cut that out. Okay, and the only other question, Miguel, I do have is, and I forgot about this long time ago. They redid the road up the hill from the Hilton up to Ipa Road, and I believe our line from the small sewage treatment plant pump station down by the Hilton goes that route. There, I know there's two pump stations down
On
there.
Ipa Road?
Yeah, the route that goes up the hill to SDA.
Not to Simon's house?
I think, wait.
Yeah, I think it goes.
It goes towards, it goes towards Challenge San Antonio.
It goes towards San Antonio, up the hill that way?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't go up that hill? Okay, I
The only one that goes there is the Talo Verde's private, and then the Ipa Road, the Paseo de Oro pump station that's outside
That
of
goes to Marine Drive.
Royal Gardens. That goes on Ipa Road.
Okay.
Great idea, but
Okay. No. It's just that, I meant to bring it up to you a long time ago to make sure that if we have to do something, we better do it now. And let's not break the road when the road's done. We're going to get,
I saw it. I walked down the road to go to the autumn festival.
isn't it something? It's
But I
amazing.
saw it. They have all the the infrastructure.
Did they widen the road?
Yeah,
It's gonna be,
Oh, okay.
that was part of the delay. They found that when they designed it. As Ariola was saying, when they designed it, it'd make a bigger retaining wall.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what's
I saw
delayed
that.
Another set.
all the fill material was not.
Yeah, they had a,
That was just backfill.
Yeah.
yeah.
In the old days, they just threw it down and said it's good
That's
enough.
part of the delay.
Okay, anything else?
No, sir, I can quickly go through the management report if you so desire. We still have executive session that we have planned, though.
Oh, okay. So,
We,
highlights.
We can review
Chuck,
it later, but.
ready?
Or even lowlights.
Okay.
All right, so starting with the operations update for water production for the month of October, from deep wells, we had an average of 35.5 million gallons a day of production, 500,000 gallons roughly from springs, 1.7 million gallons a day from Ugam, and 1.16 million gallons a day from Tumon Maui, for a total of 38.7 average million gallons a day for the month of October. We had, on average, 94 active wells, 1 on standby, 14 grounded motors. This has been our headache and challenge since post-World War. You can see the Tumon Maui well production on the next page with the one dip. Well, we had the facility trip and didn't get reset until the following day. On the water distribution side for the month of October, our pump station operability was down slightly at 92.5%, but we're still holding okay. We do have a couple stations that have pumps that need to be replaced, but overall we're still looking good. On the tank reservoir levels, you can see towards the end of October we struggled a bit with keeping reservoir levels high. That 15% average for the northern tanks is not where we want to be, and it was causing us some headaches. The guys were able to bring it back up in the middle or towards the beginning of November. It still is an issue for us, so we are doing our best to manage the production issues as we.
Causing the loss of the power issue?
It's
Equipment issue? You've added up.
So this number of the number of wells that have grounded motors, the needle has not moved, and it's not because we're not changing pumps and motors. We replace, and then newer ones or different ones are grounded out. So just this past weekend, for example, we had 2 large wells go down. HGC2, which is a very large producer up north, and then Y21, also a large. So, they're critical for us. There were, 12 other wells that were on the list to get done. Those 2 hopped to the front of the line. So we placed as soon as we were in the midst of doing the replacements, and during the war, we had already started replacing inventory for pumps and motors. That has been pushed to the limit. We need to do an additional procurement, which we're working on getting that out, just to make sure we have the appropriate vehicles to order to continually replace our inventory.
Is it claimable to G? Might as well join them.
That is not something that I've put my attention on. Sorry.
No, I'm glad you're just trying to keep it up. It's burning out well.
Well, they've got a lot of issues on their hands. We're trying to focus on ours and not necessarily add to it, but it is difficult on the crews, and the results are, although we continue to work and we have guys that are racking up overtime because it's this fight to finish, it takes 12, 16 hours to get one completely done. It is something that we're continually working on. In addition, our crane is down with an issue that we're working to try and find a temporary solution to it while we're waiting for the parts to arrive from the vendor. But GPA's been working with us, and we also have procurement for crane services from the same vendor who helped out during in previous instances where our crane has gone down. So we're working every avenue that we can to get the production back up where it needs to be, but it is a constant struggle.
Are the pumps, motors, are they interchangeable? Do we have it have it standardized where you can aim housings, those motors and pumps can mount directly on, or are they all different?
So, yes, the connections are standardized. The pump sizes are standardized. The motor sizes are standardized. The pumps are specific to one site because of the head requirements, different stages, and so we try to keep the appropriate amount of inventory. We set the critical inventory levels, and the guys have been pretty good about managing that. We get below the minimum order point, they're already working. Yeah. So we do have standardized motor selections, but the pumps are more specific to the site. Moving on to wastewater on the collection side, pump station operability held steady at about 82.3, but you'll notice that it's still significantly lower than it used to be pre-war. So again, we're having some issues there, but the guys are keeping them operational. I do have concerns. Some of our major pump stations, Route 16, Fujita, and Agana, Maine, we do have issues with the number of pumps that are operating. Some of it is pumps and motors, some of it is control. We have VFDs that went down that we're still trying to get back up and running or replaced. So those critical stations we're trying to pay close attention to. They've been below where we need them to be in terms of operability for the past couple reports. So we're hoping that gets resolved.
That's Agana, Fujita, and
Route 16. Okay. On the CCTV and cleaning, we came back after kind of a slow September, but for October we met our goal for the month, so we're keeping pace with the cleaning schedule on that. For wastewater treatment, for the month of October, we averaged 14 million gallons a day of flows at all of the plants, 5.14 for Agana and Northern, and then 2.57 MGD for Agate Santa Rita. We generated nearly 1 million pounds of sludge, 916,000 pounds of sludge, which we disposed of at a cost of about $83,000. On the asset management side, we are still keeping our preventive to corrective ratio at 75% preventive, 25% corrective. And in terms of completion, our corrective maintenance completion is at 91%, and preventive maintenance completion is at 92% of work orders issued. Leak repair versus equipment repair of our corrective maintenance work orders, leak repairs are at 53% of the total, and equipment repairs are at 47% of the total, with the completion of leak repairs at 96% of all work orders issued, and equipment repairs, 91% of all work orders issued have been completed. Real briefly on the One Guam update, we're anticipating leases for Tuma Maui well, the AG1 well, and the Taragi water line. Those have not yet been completed. So we're looking at interim licenses until we can get the long-term leases approved. This is all on the Navy real estate side, or DoD real estate side, because some of it is up at Anderson. In addition, we have requested an increase in the pumping rate at Tumon Maui up to 900 GPM for the long-term lease. That is still being considered and has not yet been approved. There's not too much movement on property transfers for the Nimitz Hill easements and the Upper Heights easements for existing sewer lines that we're actually serving customers with already. And a little bit of transfer of the ASORB Maui well into Mooning. We have expressed that we would like to see that expedited. That has been advised to the governor. The property transfers go through the governor's office, but apparently that package with that piece of property, there's 2 additional pieces over which there still remain some concerns. So the Navy is considering whether they can pull out the ASORB Maui well to expedite its return to us, or return to Guam, and that would just become an additional potential asset and provide, if it was properly developed, provide an additional source for this portion of our distribution system. There are some other information requests that are being coordinated. Some that the Navy is requesting from us, which we've been trying to facilitate for their improvement projects. And then some that we've requested from them for our resiliency studies. So that those information, so still working on the interagency agreement to govern utility services for water purchases between us and the Department of Defense. As I mentioned previously, we were hoping to get this completed by June of 2024, so we expect a draft sometime in the next month or so from the DoD so that we can review it and provide some comment. There's a couple other issues for the Marine Corps base, the Potts Junction intertie. We already have that connection established, but the Navy is wanting to take it from, it was initially metered under the contractor who's doing work on the base. They're trying to transfer that over so that they can start using the water in their facilities, and that process is ongoing. And then there's also a water supply issue of a former connection to the Navy system that went to the GWA Harmon substation that they're requesting some assistance with. At some point there was a leak and the Navy disconnected that connection, and it might need to be redone all the way back to the Navy's line. We don't have anything in that area to provide a service connection. We're working that out. Yeah, I guess it's come up in the work being done for the new power. And the only other issues are with relation to our ongoing work for PFAS and the studies that we're trying to evaluate additional or treatment technologies. We're partnering with the Navy on trying to get their information, and they're interested in the work that we're doing, so we can find a solution that works for both of us, since, you know, being out here, the disposal of GAC as a filtration media becomes an issue. Yeah, so the bench scale testing and the pilot scale testing that we're working on with US EPA, we're sharing that information with DoD. Moving on to the court order summary, no change. We're still at 98% complete, pending the completion of all of the reservoir projects. And then for SSOs, we had a single SSO in November. So far, sorry, the one that's listed is for November 3rd. I guess we didn't have for October. but we do have some since October 3rd. So you'll see that next month. Nothing really to report on land acquisition. I don't think there's anything new there. And then the leak detection, leak repairs, we are still keeping our backlog down under around 20 at the end of October. So crews are still doing a good job there. Chris, you want to work on?
On the active residential customer accounts receivable due greater than 60 days, you can see the orange line there. There was a spike in June and July, and those were post-typhoon. So that's the number of customers that went beyond 60 days. The blue line also shows an increase in the amounts, although not as visible as the number of accounts. Part of what's causing or driving that is that as those COVID relief programs, they have a cap of 18 months where you can receive that relief. So people are starting to roll off of that assistance, and we believe that's driving some of the delinquency on the account. So we are actively disconnecting for those that are not keeping up. On the commercial side, there was a slight increase of about $5,000 from the previous month, although that number remains relatively low at $41,000 beyond 60 days for commercial accounts. Highlights for customer care section for October. We saw a spike in our Facebook and Instagram visits over the month, and that was, we believe, related to the tropical storm that passed through on October 9th and 10th. Meter reading unit reported 97.63 successful electronic reads, which is about the same as the previous month. 12.8% of our customer meters are recording ongoing leaks, which again is similar to the previous month, which was 12.5. During the month, October 2nd to October 6th, the customer care section celebrated 2023 National Customer Service Week. And during the week, they did surveys of all the customers that they either assisted via the phone, in person, or through email, and the results of those are there on the report. They were relatively, everybody was satisfied in the 90th percentile on all the questions that were asked.
The first slide shows that our debt service coverage really improved, and that's basically related to the increase in our rates. Our cash on hand also went up from 271 to 294 days. Our collection ratio went down. I have asked the team to take a look at that, but I think that's partially related to the fact that we're comparing October revenues against, most of the collections are coming in against September bills at the lower rates. So we'll be keeping track of that. Although the number of days billed was one less than the last month, we did see a jump also in demand, which is good. And as our revenues are increasing, we're holding down our O&M expenses. As you can see, that October's O&M expense is lower than September's. So the next slide just also shows how well we did with regard to revenues and how our expenditures are. We're keeping that in line, and so our net operating income went up. The next slide shows a comparison of our water revenue and demand by customer class. Like in the past, the demand and the revenues match year over year.
Laundry demand is down, Tali? I
Yeah.
noticed that reference. My competitors
Sorry.
are fixing their leaks, or did they go out of business?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that that particular customer class has
Jumped
been
out, yeah.
showing a decrease. And then this is wastewater flow and wastewater revenues. And again, because of the way we bill our wastewater revenues, the wastewater flow and the revenues look different. I think we are planning to work with the PUC on the rate design, and hopefully that'll change the way that we bill wastewater for our residents.
When you say you're working on a rate design project,
So we in the last, you recall we did a number of analytical studies, and we recommended that we add another tier for water, and with regard to wastewater, that we change the way we bill our residents for sewer services. The PUC at the time declined to entertain any changes in design, and so we've recently filed another petition so that they could look at that as a separate.
have you briefed us on the redesign, or?
Yes, you were fully briefed. It's been fully vetted. It was part of the 7 analytical studies that we did for the comprehensive review and update in the last 5-year rate.
It's all in that big study.
Yes.
Okay.
So
You don't need our, and then we approved
We
the
approved
resolution,
it.
so you could change the design. You're implementing.
So what we did, when we filed the comprehensive review and update, we proposed the rate design change at that time, which would have resulted in an 8% increase in revenues overall. Within each rate class, the change would have been different. The PUC's consultant at the time did not recommend any rate increases, if you recall, and wanted us to use up all of the reserves. And so since they said, since no rate increases are required, there's no need to confuse the customers by changing the rate design.
Even though that was a PUC request to look at.
Yes. So, and it also addressed the affordability issue, right? So, that was the outcome of the comprehensive review and update. When we finished finally that review, the PUC didn't go with the recommendation of the consultant. They did give us some rate relief, but not what we requested. And they did not implement the rate design. So, but they did, during the hearing, acknowledge that it made some sense and they would be supportive of it in the future, just not now, at that time, right? And so, subsequent to that, we submitted a petition asking them to approve the rate design structure. So just the concept of an additional tier, residential wastewater rates that are based on meter size, your basic charge based on meter size, and then volume charges to account for the difference in usage. So those are included in the structure. That petition has been submitted. After we submitted it, we were hoping that they would get it done with enough time that we could present the new structure with our true-up. But the timing didn't work out, and so we asked them to pause so as not to complicate the true-up. We submitted the true-up and we got through that, but then we've asked them to put it back on the agenda so that with the next 5-year rate plan, the new rate design structure can be incorporated. So that's on the table for them. This petition was already submitted. We established in that petition the sufficiency of the record and the vetting of the rate design structure, since it was part of the 7 analytical studies, was part of the last 5-year rate plan. There have been public hearings on it. And so we're just asking them to approve the structure, and then we'll fill in the appropriate rate percentages when we do the new 5-year rate plan.
It's in play.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Good job.
Okay. Something, anything else?
So this is a new chart that I included, and basically what it does is it looks at demand and revenues from pre-COVID FY19 through FY24. And as you can see, our residential demand has been coming down. Our government has been staying flat, and although our hotel consumption is starting to rebound, it's not anywhere near our
Still slow.
pre-COVID levels.
Blame it on the yen.
And then on the next slide, you might notice that the government and federal demand or flows are higher than water, and that's because of the federal wastewater flows. This next slide just shows a comparison of water demand and wastewater flow in a different graphic over the last 4 years. And then the next slide shows our year-to-date expenditures compared to last year. So our expenditures for utilities went down, as well as our contractual expense, and all the other expenses went up. And then this is just a comparison of overall revenues compared to demand. As you can see, that spike this month related to the rate increase. And this is another look at revenues and collections. This is slightly different from what Chris showed. The slide on the left includes inactive accounts, and the slide on the right takes out the inactive accounts. And so one of the things that you might see happening is that we do have a big receivable from DOE. It's couple million, and that's related to disputed billings. We hope to resolve that soon. And this is just.
Why don't you explain to us what's going on with that?
So this is DOE mainly. It's mainly due to a leak that was at George Washington. We actually sent a team in to help try to identify where the leaks were and try to resolve it. The meter was removed to ensure that it was working properly. My understanding is that in the process the meter was damaged, so we are looking at other ways to validate the consumption.
Meter was damaged.
So when we pulled the meter and changed it out, it was fine. We put it in the operators put it in the bucket of the backhoe, and then on the way back it rolled around and got damaged. So we can't test it. But prior to the change out, while we were preparing for, as far back as preparing for Mawar,
Right.
we went to assist GDOE because it was being used as a shelter. And we raised the concern that when, during the preparation, I asked about which facilities were going to be used as shelters. And with GW specifically, I raised the concern that you guys have a leak, it's been registering. And then if you're going to designate this as a shelter, just be aware that you may have issues because of the leakage. And prior to the storm, they asked for assistance. We sent a crew out. They went onto the compound and found several fixtures that were just continuously flowing, and so they tried to make those repairs, identified them to the staff. So the leaks and the continuous flow was documented as far back as Mawar. And so post-storm, they went back and tried to do some additional work to assist. But the field guys have already, in my mind, validated that there was excessive consumption because of the leaks that we found on the site. So regardless of whether the meter is capable of being tested, there was definitely elevated usage, and we still can pull the logs.
So what do? We have an outstanding receivable that's $1 million. I'm not gonna let it go, guys. I'm sorry, guys. No. You chase them down, bring it to the corporate people down there, tell them you know who they are. And if you have to cut them off, you come to us. They're gonna ignore this. I know those guys down there. They will ignore this until such time when they'll come and tell us we don't have money, which is an absolute lie. Their water and their power, as you know, is being paid for by federal funds. So they have the money. Okay? So put the demand notice on them that you're gonna have to pay this bill. Otherwise, bring it up to us and we'll make, again, I tell them brought to my attention that we have two schools that have no students in them. Simon Sanchez and the FB Navarro, water and power is money. And then they complain that they have no money. I mean, they're their own worst enemy. I know that. I've been there. So I have breakfast with Dr. Marion. I said, we're going to cut them off. Why do you need power and water at schools that have no students in them?
Well, especially if you don't pay. If you don't pay, we'll cut you off.
That's two
it.
stupid things, right?
But you know, it's interesting. They're current over here, which is
For those two schools?
yeah. No,
Oh.
yeah, they're current, which is good. The fact that they don't want to address the fact, which to me is how things are at GWA.
Especially if
Are
they
there
have funding source.
people there though?
Where,
Are there like maintenance crews there, or
to my knowledge, no, for San
why,
Jose.
why aren't they just turning off the main? Anyway,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
but
that's something that, you
just
know, I mean, do we need to notify them that we're shutting off the water?
Yeah, I mean, there's a
We have to have
notification
permission.
requirement.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe that's what we need to do.
That might get their attention.
They're not gonna do it, you know, that's, I know these guys. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind, you know. They have 32 schools to worry about. Okay, but these two schools do not, and my understanding is that they've finally approved the CM, or the school's finally gonna get built.
The grandfathers.
Because the CM is done. And then FB Young Girl, apparently the contract was awarded,
Yeah.
fix the school, but
Yeah.
that's still let's say
A
a
while
year
back,
out
yeah.
before we actually do something.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, water and power is, no, I mean,
Do them a favor.
Miguel, was a new meter was put in.
Yes.
Does it still show it's continuously
Yes.
running still?
that's what I mean.
Crazy.
So you did put a new meter in at GW?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
we had to. We pulled the old one, we had to put a new one in.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah,
And if it's federally funded, they have a
they
source
have
of
money.
payment.
See, that's.
Well, so,
What exactly
you know
is the
what?
problem?
Miguel, you have a process. You don't need us to tell you. to
No,
cut
no,
them off.
we'll
Just cut
follow
them
the
off.
process, but we'll put some extra effort into
Yeah,
Yeah.
discussions.
Trying to work with them, but at some point you just pull the plug.
you got a good excuse on Thanksgiving break, you come back, there's no water. I'm gonna pay the bill. Sorry, yeah.
No. Hey, we do this with all our other customers, okay? If we have to do it with Tanmarian, as Simon likes to say, Tanmarian Tunasay, then we do it for the
Day
government.
46, we cut them off, right? Right.
So anyway,
Just one other thing related to finances before we have to get into executive session. I sent the board an email yesterday with the
Reading.
S&P rating action.
Yeah.
And unfortunate, we thought we gave them good information when we were out there. Unfortunately, the main reason, as I understand it, Colin can weigh in, is although it was a prudent management decision to use rate stabilization funds, for their methodology, the use of one-time funding does not contribute to the debt service coverage, and so that was our biggest weak point. So depleting the reserves, not having rates to make the coverage is what contributed to that, and those 2 points were all primarily based on recommendations from Georgetown Consulting Group to the PUC in our
to allow us to
comprehensive
run
review.
down the reserve.
That's right.
Instead of, okay, but the other thing is long-term though, see, the effect is going to be to our ratepayers.
That's right.
Because as we go out for more debt, which we're going to do because of the new consent decree, the interest rate will be up because if we don't make debt service coverage, they're not gonna say, okay, we're going to our bonds back or whatever. But where that happens, where that hits you is on your next bond borrowing. Then they look at you and say, you're not keeping up with your debt service coverage, so we need more interest to allay our fears. Commissioner Sanchez?
So I like the way you briefly summarized it, and to the commission. I think it's something you should share, if you wish, as manner, with the PUC, that this is our takeaway, your takeaway. I made, it shows the necessity of the PUC and its organization to be able to support our ability to comply with these consent decrees. I think the last few years have proven that the Georgetown approach hasn't been viewed positively by at least one rating agency, right? I mean, the good news is we're still investment grade, right? I mean, and rating agencies, after what happened in 2008, they've become a lot more conservative. So negative outlook and all that, but we're still investment grade. But I think your point is well made. It's been well made to us. We've approved everything you and Tolling have developed. And from the rate design studies that the PUC ordered, or the rate design issues that the PUC ordered, we've done the work, we've done the analysis. and now you're ready to propose changes, but I was happy with the way you were summarizing it, and that you're summarizing it now in public, and that perhaps you should share, think of a way to share it with the PUC and say, you know, it's not a pissing match, but this is a concern. This is what rating agency, this is what they said, right? And like the chair says, we're doing the new list. It's going to have more money to be required, and every penny we can save for ratepayers is dependent on how rating agencies look at it. And so I think make your case, continue to make your case. I know, I sense from the five of us, we support everything you're doing on the rates. And we did what the PUC wanted. So, okay, now that we've done it, let's both organizations, particularly the PUC, we've done the study, put your money where your study is, right? And let's get on with it, because we have a new list, got to get built, and it's going to make the system better. But the ratepayers and you and Tolling need an ability to implement, and that ultimately comes from rates.
So if you don't mind, I just wanted to add that we did, Miguel did send a note to the ALJ requesting or suggesting a schedule so that we stay on task and on time, and we don't end up, you know, having them approve rates after the fiscal year end. So we've already submitted a couple of things related to that task, and we'll continue to monitor that to make sure and encourage them to
In the same way you've both informed us,
Inform
the PUC and say, this is the outcome of your decisions, right?
And the term of the current ALJ is through,
I think he's retiring, right?
do we know?
Oh, we don't know.
So his prior communication to us has been that he may have 6 months to a year remaining.
Okay.
I don't know if that has changed with the reappointment of the chair. I don't know when the chair is up for.
He was reappointed?
Is reappointed along with Commissioner Montanola and Commissioner McDonald. And I think there's, I don't know if they're, I have not seen their hearing. Joe?
Oh, the Attorney Joe, okay.
No.
This is,
Mid-pack.
He's the business.
Mid-Pac Joe, yeah. He's been there for a while.
this is his dad is Joe McDonald,
Yes.
and his mother's,
Yes, I know which one.
you know who you're talking about, yeah. Lena
Finn,
McDonald.
but
Yeah.
yeah, been there forever.
Yeah.
And on the PUC, good.
Joe
I mean,
McDonald.
at least they've been very generally receptive to
Yeah.
what we propose.
I think Joe McDonald, he's still there, yeah. But,
Even in the agent's
Miguel,
office,
I mean,
we're friends.
in fairness, you know, Joe McDonald was the one, I think, who upped the,
He
was the one who made the
he
motion.
made an amendment, proposed an amendment.
From the 16.1 to the 6.8, he says, we need to do more, come on.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
Oh, we may have a new ALJ soon.
yeah,
I think Fred's wrapping up his.
so everybody retires.
It's hired by the PUC.
Yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's on their
He
side.
works with, that's on their side, he works for them.
That's all on their side.
Okay,
Interesting to see.
motion to rise up and to go into executive session.
There you go.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion is
Second.
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Take a break.
5 minutes to switch all the
Good job, Miguel.
equipment.
Good job. Colin, good job. Keep it up. Happy Thanksgiving.
back in open session. Please turn on your mic.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
Second.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.